With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
It's Irish. It is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No, we Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you, Scott Shannon, for that wonderful introduction, and thank all of you, our listeners, for tuning in once again to A Bunch of Malarkey, our first episode of the month of May. Thank you for bringing A Bunch of Malarkey into your homes, your cars, your workplaces, the gym, or wherever else, your toilets, wherever else you listen to A Bunch of Malarkey. We really appreciate it. Coming off another record-breaking week, 6,700 of you tuned in last week, where we talked about vaccinations, home remedies, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much for making A Bunch of Malarkey part of your week once again. So we have flipped the calendar. We are into the month of May, if you can believe that. And Mother Nature decided to flip the switch here in Metro Atlanta. Close to 90 degrees this week. Heat index is over 90, humid. It's summer. All of a sudden it's summer. We went from a very short spring, and now we are in the grips of summer. Air conditioning units running. They'll be running now until Halloween, November. So it's that time of the year now in the South where you pretty much stay inside unless you like oppressive humidity and heat, mosquitoes, and all that fun stuff. So I will probably be indoors until Halloween or so. So, I remember when Corey was on a few weeks ago. It was actually more than a few weeks ago now. It's May. I think it was back in January, February. We talked about neighbors, and I had mentioned that there was a house for sale behind mine where you get a pretty good view of the house, and the people that lived there before were pretty quiet people. You know, in the spring and summer when all the foliage grows in and the leaves and the greenery, you really can't see the house. But once the fall and the winter comes, you pretty much can see the whole house, and it's pretty typical like that in these areas where the houses aren't right on top of one another, but they're close enough where you can hear things and see things. So this week, new neighbors moved in, and they proceeded to, first day there, I don't know how many kids they had, how many relatives. They were of a certain nationality. I'm not going to say because I don't want to be unpolitically correct or anything, or people think that I'm bashing one nationality. But they were of a nationality where they dress in traditional garb, and they were outside the first day screaming all day. The kids, the parents, the grandparents, they were dressed in this traditional garb, screaming in a foreign language all day, wearing no shoes. The kids, the parents, the grandparents were all walking around outside with no shoes. And you might think, okay, you walk in the grass or you walk on concrete with no shoes. Folks, their backyard is totally covered with about, I would say, 6 inches deep of pine straw, leaves, all kinds of debris. It's like an unfinished yard in a way. And there are snakes. Snakes are rampant. I've seen a bunch of them already this year. Now, you're walking around. Yeah, I know you have traditions in your country, wherever you're from. Again, I'm not going to say where. You can pretty much, use your own imagination. But they're walking around barefoot in the yard with the risk of snakes, God knows what else back there. Walking around, first day there, making a bad impression, screaming all day, second day screaming all day. Now, it's been raining the last couple of days, so I haven't heard much. But, I was telling Johnny B., who was nice enough when during the week, I was a bachelor last week when my wife was away. He stopped by and brought me lunch, and we had a nice conversation for a couple of hours. I told Johnny B. that, my wife asks me all the time, now that you're not DJing anymore, why don't you get rid of that DJ equipment that's down in the basement? Folks, I have enough sound systems to compete with some of these baseball stadiums and soccer arenas. I could really blow the roof off this neighborhood if I wanted to. But I keep that as my missile defense system. You don't want to use it, but it's there if you need it. So if these people continue to be loud and obnoxious, I will be gearing up the sound effects and the music, and that will be my first line of defense against these people. So, you want to be nice with the neighbors. You want to be friendly. And I try to be. If someone's nice to me, I say hello back. I don't really bother with a lot of the neighbors because we learned a hard lesson when we lived in New York. But, I try to be nice, cordial, keep the peace. I want peace and quiet. I don't want any drama. But, first day, second day here, you're screaming, yelling, doing all... Folks, I got that. My missile defense system is on alert. So what do you do? Corey and I spoke about it for a whole episode. What do you do when you have a bad neighbor or a loud neighbor? It's a fine balance. You don't want to go out there yelling and screaming. But I said you have to do passive-aggressive shit. I put a couple of speakers in the windows in the dark of night and play some chainsaw sound effects or a jackhammer. They're not going to know where it's coming from. It'll just be a nuisance to them. They will have no idea where it's coming from because it echoes all over. And, you just have to do passive-aggressive stuff. You don't want to go out there yelling and screaming and, then creating an awkward situation every time you see them. But you do have to get even if they're going to be assholes. So that's my plan of attack if it continues. But you always hope when someone puts a house up for sale and they're decent people that you get nice people in their place. But it always does. It doesn't always work out that way. So I hope your weekend was good. We're coming off a couple of big events this weekend. The Kentucky Derby, the controversial Kentucky Derby on Saturday, which we'll get to a little bit later. And Cinco de Mayo this weekend, which we're going to get into in a bit also. And that's basically what this whole episode is about, folks. People that celebrate things they maybe shouldn't, or over-the-top celebrating, or celebrating too much. We're going to go over all these different things people celebrate that maybe we shouldn't. Are we a society that over-celebrates? And do we do it because we want validation on social media? We're going to get to all that. But before we do, now, did your weekend include any type of shopping? I know a lot of people go to the grocery stores on the weekend. They go to the big box stores like Costco. They go all over because, you work all week and you have your weekends to enjoy yourself, but you also have to get your errands done and get your food shopping done. Now, Costco is one of my favorite stores, as you know, but we will only go to Costco on a day we can get there when the doors open. Now, the Costco by us, they always open 15 to 20 minutes before their posted time, so it's great, and I know that. So if they open at 10, I get there at 9:30. By 9:40, they open the doors, quarter of 10. I'm in and I'm out by 10:15, 10:05, because I have a list. I know what I need. That's the only time and only way I go to Costco. I would never go to Costco in the height of the day because you have to park in, like, Connecticut. The parking's ridiculous because our Costco is right on the grounds of a mall. So the parking is horrendous. The lines are crazy, and I try to avoid Costco at all costs unless I get there when it opens. So I saw a story in Canada, believe it or not. Now, these are pretty peaceful people. They're not normally crazy like we are here in the United States. But an argument over a parking spot ended with a woman pulling out a machete. The incident happened last Sunday, in a parking lot of a Costco in British Columbia, Canada. The woman said she was trying to pull into a space at a Vancouver Island warehouse store when she was cut off by another woman who took the space. The drivers exchanged words before one of them pulled out a machete and held it in a threatening manner, officials with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police said. The other driver told police she backed away and called authorities. On Wednesday, police said the woman identified herself after news coverage and turned herself in. It's not known whether she will face charges. How do you not know if she pulled a machete and threatened a woman? A police official reminded people not to engage in or escalate road rage incidents. If you don't know who you're dealing with, you're not going to know what their reactions are going to be. So the best thing to do is just walk away and take the higher road. Constable Nancy Sager with the Canadian Mounted Police said. So this is why I avoid Costco. If they're fighting with machetes in Canada, you can only imagine what they're doing here, what they would do here in the United States for a parking spot. And with that will segue perfectly into our favorite segment.
Mutant of the Week.
Now, we had a pretty decisive victory last week. We had a few weeks there where it was a one vote, then we had a tie, then we had a decent margin last week. But this week it was a pretty substantial victory as the dog cam creeper, the guy caught on a woman's dog cam in her apartment wearing her bra, bathing suit bottom, cover up, drinking her root beer, eating her ice cream. He beat the fingerprinted fondler, the man who was arrested and then fondled the fingerprint technician at the police station. It was a 62% to 38% margin. So our dog cam creeper gets the crown this week. Thank you all for voting. I thought that one could have gone either way. I could see reasoning behind both, but the dog cam creeper gets the big win, and he is our champion. He is our mutant of the week until a new one is selected, and we have the nominees for this week. So thank you all for voting, by the way, and just a reminder before I read the nominees that our voting begins on Tuesday, early morning on Tuesday, and ends somewhere in the afternoon or early evening on Saturday. So you have almost 5 full days to vote. So make sure you get your vote in. We have our core voters, which I see all of you, and I thank you all very much for stopping by and voting each week. So let's get to our nominees this week before we get into our main subject. We got to go up to Virginia. Now, we haven't had a Virginia. I guess we did have Virginia a while back, but we haven't had a Virginia in a while. We're going to Bedford County, Virginia, where an argument over which truck is better, Ford or Chevy, escalated and ended with gunshots in a Virginia home. According to WSET, prosecutors said it happened during dinner involving Mark Turner, his girlfriend, and her son and the son's girlfriend. Turner and his girlfriend's son got into a heated argument about trucks. The allegation is that there was alcohol involved and a dispute began against Logan Bailey, the son of the girlfriend, and Mr. Turner about what type of vehicle is best, Chevy versus Ford, attorney Wes Nance said. Investigators said Turner pulled out a knife and threatened Bailey. Turner's girlfriend stepped between her boyfriend and her son. Turner stabbed his girlfriend in the lower back, leaving a 6-inch wound, according to Nance. But then things got even worse. Investigators say Turner left the home, got a gun, and returned. It is then alleged that Mr. Turner came back out and approached Mr. Bailey once again, his mother trying to intervene between the two of them, Nance said. During that time, she was shot a total of 5 times, all of those injuries occurring to her legs. Bailey was also shot, and his girlfriend was hit by 2 ricocheted bullets. When investigators arrived, they had to use a beanbag round to subdue Turner. All of the victims are expected to survive and recover. During his court appearance this past week on April 29th, he was denied bond. So an argument over Chevy versus Ford, let's call him the domestic diesel debater. He's our mutant number 1 out of Virginia, the domestic diesel debater. So, folks, if that isn't a mutant, I don't know what is. So, our second nominee comes out of the Houston area. A pair of bumbling burglars were arrested after apparently butt-dialing 911 while fleeing the scene of a burglary at a Best Buy near Houston early Saturday. The men are alleged to have knocked off a Best Buy in Sugarland, Texas, about 3 a.m. While responding to an alarm at the store, dispatch received a 911 call in the area. But instead of a caller, they heard only background noise. Authorities said they pinged a cell phone, which was coming from a car traveling toward Houston from the suburban electronics store, and took off in pursuit. He somehow butt-dialed 911. They put it all together. Officers were already en route to the alarm call when they got the other 911 call. A communications officer for the Houston Police Department said, the suspects led police on a chase that reached speeds of 120 miles per hour, authorities said. The suspects bailed out of their truck in northeast Houston, but 2 of the 3 men were captured. A third remains at large. Authorities found stolen laptops and other electronics from Best Buy in the truck. The same Best Buy in Sugarland was the scene of a $200,000 robbery 4 years ago in March of 2015. So we'll call them the butt-dialing burglars. So we got a pretty good match this week. Are you going to vote for the domestic diesel debater, or are you going to vote for the butt-dialing burglars? Not the burgers, folks, burglars. So our voting, again, goes up on Tuesday morning early, and will be up until late mid-afternoon, early evening on Saturday. So in the opening, I mentioned we're coming off a weekend where we had Kentucky Derby. People got together for parties with these big hats. And even if they weren't going to a track or to the actual Derby itself, they're sitting around the houses in these elegant hats, drinking these Kentucky mules and all these mint juleps and all these other drinks that they drink at the Kentucky Derby. I don't get it, but for some people, this is what they do. Now, we also had Cinco de Mayo on Sunday. Now, I have no problem with people celebrating things. You only, depending on what religion or what you believe in, they say you only live once. Whether that's true or not, nobody knows. We don't know if we come back as something or hover around a while or come back as a dog. I don't know what the hell happens when you died. Who knows, right? But they say you only live once, so you should make the most of it. But does that mean we should be celebrating every minuscule milestone or celebrating things way over the top compared to years past? And are we doing it now because we want validation or credit or likes on social media? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, we're going to cover Cinco de Mayo because going through Facebook the last couple of days, it's a riot what people think Cinco de Mayo really is. And I'm going to explain it to you, folks. Cinco de Mayo is a cultural phenomenon in the United States. It's a time to celebrate Mexican culture, and for some, an opportunity to drink a lot of margaritas and cerveza, because I hope that's how you say it. But it's also a frequently misunderstood holiday, and that's not surprising, folks. People don't even know who we got our independence from or on 4th of July here, and it's not surprising. For those of you out of the loop, here's a refresher on what Cinco de Mayo is all about. So what is it, folks? What is Cinco de Mayo? People often mistake Cinco de Mayo for a celebration of Mexican independence. 67% of Americans think it's Mexican Independence Day. But guess what? You'd be wrong. The holiday celebrates a failed French invasion after a fledgling Mexican state defaulted on some debt payments to European governments. In 1861, Mexico was suffering from financial ruin following years of internal strife. This was exploited by the French president Napoleon III, who thought it would be a fantastic time to try and build up an empire there, an excuse to invade. Mexico had defaulted on debts with Britain and Spain as well, but those two countries, they negotiated with them, with Mexico, and withdrew their navy. But the French invaded Mexico in late 1861 with well-armed forces and stormed Veracruz, forcing the Mexican government and its forces to retreat into northern Mexico. Confident of further victories, French forces focused their attention on the city of Puebla. Anticipating that attack, Mexican President Benito Juarez brought together a group of 2,000 men to fight back against the French, many of whom were indigenous Mexicans or of mixed ancestry. When the French finally attacked on May 5th, 1862, the battle lasted from daybreak well into the early evening. The French ended up retreating after losing almost 500 soldiers. The Mexicans lost fewer than 100. So was this a significant battle? Not really, folks. Strategically, it was not. The battle represented more of a symbolic victory for the Mexican forces and added to the resistance. French forces didn't leave until 1867 after years of fighting. Mexicans were helped in part by the end of our Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, when the U.S. was able to send their own troops and help out their besieged neighbor because our little problem was over, so we figured we'd help our neighbor. So does all of Mexico celebrate Cinco de Mayo? No, they don't. People in Pueblo celebrate, and that's where the unlikely victory occurred. But the festivities aren't national in Mexico. Cinco de Mayo isn't a federal holiday in Mexico, so it's just like any other day for most people in Mexico. So when does Mexico celebrate their independence? Since everybody thought here in America, or 67% of Americans think that is their Independence Day. Mexico celebrates its Independence Day on September 16th. On that day in 1810, Mexican revolutionary priest Miguel Hidalgo Castilla made a famous call to arms for his fellow men and women to resist Spanish colonial government. So you're probably wondering, why is Cinco de Mayo celebrated in the United States? The holiday is widely seen as a celebration of Mexican cultural heritage for America's growing Hispanic population. But, folks, Everybody celebrates it. And I don't want to get political, folks, but if you voted for Trump and you're trying to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, you better Cinco de mind your fucking business, your own fucking business, and leave Mexican culture alone, because I think it's hypocritical. You know, on the 4th, these red hat wearers are, on May 4th, they're yelling, build the wall. And on May 5th, they're wearing sombreros, listening to mariachi music, enjoying Mexican food, parked out front with their pickup truck with build the wall on it. It's a bit hypocritical. Again, not to get too political on the show, but if you're crying for Mexicans to leave all year, you don't even know what the fucking holiday is about, and you're yelling build the wall, you probably shouldn't be out celebrating Cinco de Mayo. So it's just another excuse for Americans to celebrate something, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, the Kentucky Derby was Saturday. If you're a horse racing fan, now I'm not a horse racing fan, but I tune into the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and then the Belmont. And I've gone to the Preakness. The week of the Preakness, I'll tell you a great story about what the Preakness is all about. I went there many years ago. It was a party for the ages. It's a day I'll never forget. We'll get into that another time around the Preakness time. But if you're just, you want to watch the 3 big races, the Triple Crown, the 3 legs of the Triple Crown, I get it. You don't have to be a big horse racing fan to do that. But I think it's over the top. I see the women, especially, I don't know if I never saw it up north really, but down here in the south, they're all wearing these giant hats, going over each other's houses for Kentucky Derby. I don't get it. It's just another thing to celebrate. Then you go to Cinco de Mayo after yelling build the wall. I don't get it. So it's just another thing where I feel Americans are just want to celebrate everything. And again, I don't have any problem with people having fun. I'm not that much of a fucking Grinch or Scrooge. I think celebrating is good. People should celebrate things, but I feel like it's not genuine anymore. People are doing it to be validated, to put pictures up on social media. And that segues perfectly into our topic, which is over-celebrating and things we are celebrating that maybe we shouldn't. I think people are losing their minds when it comes to celebrating life's milestones. Couples, they used to find out the sex of their babies when the baby came kicking and screaming into the world, right? Now they have technology to find out earlier, which is great. It's cool. It's exciting. But why do you need to, an elaborate stunt to share what is a pretty simple binary news, which is the sex of your baby? It can only be 2 things. It either has a penis or a vagina. It's going to be a boy or a girl. And then 10 years later, you're going to let the kid choose whatever sex now with this gender identity stuff. You're going to tell the kid, pick your sex anyway. So it doesn't matter if he has the penis or that she has the vagina when she comes out anymore anyway. So you're celebrating all this. Then in 10 years, you're going to tell the kid, pick what you want anyway. So that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. School proms, folks. They're prom proposals now. I don't want to sound like a crabby. I think they're promposals, I think is the word for them. I don't want to sound like a crabby old 40-something man, but back in my day, my prom was in the last year of the 80s. Bobby Brown, Every Little Step was on the charts, Like a Prayer by Madonna, Buffalo Stance by Nina Cherry. Those are the songs She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals. Those were the songs playing at my prom. And back in the day, I just asked a girl to my senior prom. I didn't hire a brass band. I didn't hire a skywriter. I just mumbled from beneath my bad glasses and hairdo, hey, do you want to go to the prom with me? There was nothing known as a promposal like there is now, which is an elaborate stunt, almost as big as the prom itself, and of course, recorded for the entire world to see. Like it's going to be a big shock that the girl you've been dating for 2 years is going to say yes for you to go to the prom with her. I mean, come on, folks. This is all for social media attention. Promposals are one thing, folks, but let's get into marriage proposals. They're even crazier. People are planning events that cost thousands of dollars and sometimes take months or years of planning to create the perfect fairy tale. There are proposals that can only be seen from the sky, flash mob proposals, crossword puzzle proposals, and the customized iPhone app proposal. Yes, folks, there is an iPhone app proposal. And who could forget the dude who jumped the barrier at the New York City Marathon, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, and interrupted his girlfriend's first marathon to get on his knee and propose in the middle of her running her race. You can even outsource. Now, I was in the event business, folks, for over a decade, 12, 13 years as a DJ. And you can even outsource your wedding proposal to an event planner now if you really want to turn this thing into a big circus with all the pomp and circumstance. But with all this drama, where are the words about what a person means to you and why you want to marry them? Where's the heart in all of this? Where is it gone? It's gone, I feel, to just be a show for everybody else but the person that you're actually proposing to or asking to the prom. We can only hope, folks, that all the folks creating Insta-worthy proposal moments are committed to putting in as much effort into the actual marriage. For those of you married out there, even if you have a great husband and wife, it's not always easy. There's a lot of compromise, a lot of debate, a lot of little nuances being married. So let's hope these people that are putting all this effort into the proposal are ready to put effort into the actual marriage. But with the divorce rate the way it is, it doesn't seem like they are. Of course, folks, once the wedding is on, the proposal's over, you're at the wedding now, the crazy stunts don't end with the proposals. If you want bridesmaids, you'll need gifts of some sort of ceremony. You know, asking a bridesmaid, another friend to be a bridesmaid isn't good enough anymore. It's not newsworthy. You can't put that on social media. So now there has to be these stunts to ask people to be their bridesmaid. You know, just asking doesn't create any shareable pictures or social media buzz. And if it's not on the socials, folks, did it ever happen? Grand entrance dances. I can't tell you how many of these I saw doing weddings, and we'll get to more of them. Flash mob choreographed dances by the bridal party. The bride and her dad slow dancing and turning it into MC Hammer. I mean, when did this all start, folks? Has it gone too far is my question to you today. Are we sharing moments that used to be private and personal for the sake of online popularity and validation? I mean, is that what it's for, folks? Businesses are cashing in on this, folks, too. You know, I don't need to say that. There's whole industries arising out of proposals, events, parties, and gifts. But what about the value of a genuine connection with someone? Is telling someone what they mean to you because you want them to know, not the entire world. Is that gone by the wayside now? I don't know where the line is, folks, but I feel we've crossed it. The question is, how do we reel it back? Does a simple proposal or phone call sharing the sex of your baby seem lackluster now? Is it too late to stuff the genie back in the bottle? Now, I think it is, because now it's all about upstaging the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And I think it's gone. I don't think we can put it back. And I'm all for technology. I love social media. I connect with you guys on social media. It's great for business. It's great for promoting, a project you're working on, my book last year. It's great for a lot of things, small business owners. But I think it's ruining the social connections we have with people and the interactions. And it's like one-upsmanship on everything, I feel. Now, my biggest pet peeve, I know we talked about pet peeves a couple of weeks ago when this was mentioned, are these gender reveals. Now, for any mom-to-be that's listening, sincerely from my heart, congratulations. A great number of you managed to take a time in your families. But, what I want to say is a great number of you, I don't mean everybody, you've managed to take a time in your family's story that is already very much all about you, and deservedly so. When you're pregnant, you should receive lavish attention, themed showers, gifts. You should receive that. Random acts of courtesy and kindness from strangers, open doors, delivered meals, washed and folded laundry. But now you've managed to infuse it with one more event that is, surprise, surprise, all about you. I'm talking about one of the latest hallmarks of our self-obsessed, self-absorbed, self-promoting, self-congratulatory culture, the gender reveal party. Now, again, you heard what I said. If you're pregnant out there, a mom-to-be, you should get those things. You should get showers and attention and courtesy, and people should go out of their way for you. It's a special time for you. But don't you think having a party all about you is bringing it over the top? I do. In my mind, it joins the ranks of the selfie. Congratulations on yet again reminding your friends that what you look like in your car, at the gym, or in your bathroom mirror. It's in the same realm, I feel. The promposal, which I touched, congratulations on being asked to the prom by your boyfriend of 2 years, who I'm sure was very surprised by your acceptance of his elaborate, day-long, expensive exhibition. I mean invitation, folks. The kindergarten graduation, congratulations on meeting the very minimal standards that every other child in your grade met and being a champion block stacker. So can you be satisfied with all the attention you will naturally receive through the genuine goodwill of those who care about you? You know, people are going to come up to you when you're pregnant. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to do kind gestures. They're going to give you gifts. They're going to give you baby showers. They're going to visit you. They're going to bring you meals. They're going to offer to babysit if you have other kids and when you have your kid. So you're going to get all this attention, right? And during this special time, you know, while this little person is growing inside of you, you are kind of at the center of the universe in the eyes of many anyway. Your husband, your parents, your in-laws, your circle of friends, your coworkers, and probably many others. Why can't that be enough? Why do you have to ask for more? Can we shower you with attention because we want to and not because you are asking us to? I want to know if I should buy you a male or female baby clothes. I really do. I get it. You know, if the shower comes or if we want to surprise you with a gift, we want to know maybe the gender of the baby so we know, you know, what to get you if a cute boy or girl theme thing. But I'd rather not find out alongside a host of others at some kind of decked out party venue. Let us know that you're having a boy or a girl. Should you become ensnared by the lure of this absurd trend, though, I ask one thing. Please don't invite us to your gender reveal party. Just call us up and let us know what you're having. So, you know, I get that you're excited. You're expecting. It's an extremely exciting time, I'm sure. But it really needs to be said. It's time to take these gender reveals down a notch. Let's be real. Gender reveals have always been pretty extra, but they used to be a lot simpler. Even when they started out, they didn't bother me as much, folks. Like, you cut into a cake to see if it was blue or pink frosting on the inside. Okay, you film it. Maybe you have relatives that are, you know, a few states away that, you know, want to be part of it through FaceTime. You want to have a few close friends and relatives around. Okay. Then it turned to opening a box to see if pink or blue balloons came out. Okay. But somewhere along the line, folks, we lost the plot. A woman actually shot her husband with a paintball gun to see which color would explode on his chest, blue or pink. Another couple got a diver at an aquarium to make the announcement. He swam to the glass of the tank and flashed a sign, and as the couple and their friends cheered and jumped up and down. And, of course, they filmed it and put it on social media. Another couple actually used a monster truck for their reveal. They paid a monster truck at a monster jam to blow either pink or blue exhaust to reveal their baby's gender to them and the entire crowd. And, of course, they filmed it and put it on social media. You don't think those are over the top, folks? Well, I'm just getting warmed up. Another guy jumped out of a plane, and the color of his parachute revealed the gender. A fireman and his wife wasted a whole lot of water and a fire truck waiting for the water to turn blue or pink, all at the taxpayer's expense. Sports are incorporated in many reveals. Men missing 5-foot basketball shots only to have the ball hit the ground and explode rather than exploding off the backboard. Another woman I saw rolled a soccer ball filled with dye to her husband for him to kick, only to have him kick it into her head with no reveal. Another baseball-themed reveal resulted in Grandpa taking a ball to the head as Daddy swung and missed the 5-mile-an-hour fastball. Another mom, she was lobbed a dye-filled softball to her husband, who was to hit this softball, and it was to explode. But instead, he hit a line drive and swung like he was going for the home run record, and he hit a line drive into his wife's face. Again, the ball did not break, so there was no reveal. You see what I'm saying, folks? Gender reveals have gone too damn far. You know, another woman made a giant piñata of herself, then had her husband burst out of its belly dressed as a baby spraying pink confetti. All I'm saying is that maybe you don't need to do a heavily choreographed dance routine with 10 backup dancers just to say you're having a boy or a girl. Just let us know. Another couple brought in an alligator. That's right, folks, an alligator to the family yard and a family member shoved a small watermelon filled with some pink or blue shit in it into the alligator's mouth. When the gator chomped down on the watermelon, it revealed some blue gook, and the crowd went wild. But the worst one of all was one that made our Mutant of the Week back in the fall, where a man ignited a massive wildfire in Arizona, burning 47,000 acres and doing $8 million in damage to reveal the gender of his baby. So where do you stand on gender reveals, folks? I think I'm okay with the cake cutting or the balloons but these over-the-top stunts, and why do you have to put them on social media? You want to FaceTime with your relatives who can't be there? Okay. Why look at your friends list on Facebook, folks. Now, mine's very streamlined. I had at one point close to 1,000. I think I have 250 now. Now, a lot of people have thousands of friends. A lot of them they just met once. It's casual. Why do 1,000 people have to know whether you're having a boy or a girl? Most of the people you don't even speak with anyway. Have we crossed the line with these gender reveals? Where do you stand on gender reveals? Is it okay if it's kept simple? Is it none of anybody else's fucking business? Why do we have to see it on social media? How do you feel about seeing these on social media? And what are your opinions on these gender reveals? But they don't stop with gender reveals, folks. Let's talk about these kindergarten graduations and preschool graduations and, third grade. Now, when I was growing up, the only graduation there was when you graduated from high school or college. When you went from one grade to the next, it was called a promotion. You got your report card on the last day of school. It told you what teacher you had the next year. You went home, and your reward and your prize was getting the summer off. Yeah, the last day of school in elementary school on different grades, you had maybe a little party in the classroom with some punch and pizza. It was like an end-of-the-year party. I get it. But now we're closing in on the end of another school year, especially here in the South. I think they only have maybe a week or two left. We end in mid-May, I believe. Tons of graduates are going to be entering the world of academia, exiting the world of academia and entering the world of adulthood. Graduating is a huge step in the next direction. However, in recent years, a growing trend has been to celebrate the graduation of 5- and 6-year-olds from kindergarten with as much exuberance as a high school, senior, or college graduate. Just go to the store, folks. Check out the Hallmark aisle at your local Publix or supermarket chain or CVS, and you will see kindergarten graduation cards and money holders decorated with Mickey Mouse sitting right alongside those for high school and college seniors. Yes, if you didn't already know it, today kids are adorning mini cap and gowns atop fancy dresses and suits and ties in their school colors and taking a walk down the aisle to receive their certificate of graduation from preschool and kindergarten. Across the country, it's sweeping across the country. My question to you folks, is a full-fledged graduation ceremony really necessary for a 5-year-old? Wouldn't a simple party, like I mentioned, in the classroom with goodies and punch and pizza commemorate the last day of school, wouldn't that be enough? After all, folks, kids today are already indulged enough. With looming graduation ceremonies, parents today are lavishing expensive gifts and kudos to every young child for simply coloring within the lines and following the excess reward of trophy-for-all trend of parenting currently in style. Today, a 5 or 6-year-old, folks, can barely manage to perform an expected responsibility without feeling as if they are deserving of a prize or reward for doing so. So we're feeding into that with these big kindergarten graduation ceremonies. The problem is that when we overemphasize things like kindergarten graduations, we raise the bar for other life successes to an unreasonably high level. If you are spending a few $100 to celebrate a kindergarten or 5th grade or 8th grade graduation, how the hell will you celebrate a high school or college graduation? And what will the expectation be from your children? There isn't a parent around that I know that isn't beaming with pride when it comes to their child. And rightfully so. You should be proud of your children and the little milestones and the little advances they make in their life. This pride helps to build their character, their self-confidence, and hopefully motivate them to do well in all areas of their lives. Yet at the same time, there should be many things in children's lives that should be deserving of a simple good job and not a full-fledged celebration or party. Children shouldn't be lavish with gifts for behaving at the dentist's office. Give them a fucking lollipop, like I used to get. Or given a participation trophy for being on a team, whether they added any value to the team or not, or whether the team stunk, or whether they were good, or whether they won a championship, or whether they came in last place. Parents shouldn't be busting their budget by spending hundreds of dollars on a birthday party for a 1-year-old who's not even going to remember this. Or a $700 outing for a 5 or 6-year-old who will barely remember the event is just a tad bit pretentious, in my opinion. Back in the day, folks, graduation from high school and college were the big ceremonies and celebrations on campus. Today graduation presents even at the graduation presents even at the higher levels of schooling tend to be over-the-top gifts such as cars. They give out apartments and thousands upon thousands of dollars. While these events certainly are a big deal, a typical graduation from kindergarten does not really compare. Certainly it is fun to celebrate your child's successes. It's also incredibly cute for parents to watch their child's kindergarten class celebrate the end of the year by performing a class play and showing off the collection of artwork they have accumulated throughout the year. But a full-blown kindergarten graduation, complete with pictures, caps and gowns, extravagant gifts, huge parties, and family get-togethers, seems to be slightly off-kilter. Regardless, it seems that kindergarten graduations, just like gender reveals, they're here to stay, folks. Each year, we can expect bigger and better things at the end of the kindergarten school year. As parents, however, you might want to give some thought as to whether or not there are detrimental effects to doing too much too soon when it comes to your kids. Now, even the dynamic at the end of the school year has changed. Now, it wasn't just my mom. My mom, we're going to do shows on my childhood and growing up. We're going to get maybe my brother on the show via phone, or maybe when I go to visit him, we'll do a podcast together. But, I always thought it was just my mom. But I remember at the end of the school year, my mom and the other moms, I come from a very working class area in New York, a lot of the moms worked. So having us home in the summer when school ended was I wouldn't want to call it a burden, but it was a strain because your mom still had to work. We needed the second incomes. And it was a strain on the parents. So they had to figure out who was going to watch us, if we were old enough to watch ourselves. And I've spoken about us being alone. When my sister turned 13, I was 11, my brother was 9. That's the first summer we started staying by ourselves when my parents were at work during the day in the summer. So parents had to make decisions back then. So it was stressful when school would let out, and then it was joyful when we went back to school. My mom and the other moms and dads and neighbor were excited the week leading up to us going back to school and used to taunt us and stuff. Now it's the opposite, folks. I have like I've mentioned a million times, we have a social media page for our neighborhood. Now I live in a subdivision with 225 houses, most of which have children. And you would think when school starts up that they're going to a funeral, these parents. They cry. They so bonded to these kids that, a lot of the moms don't have to work, so they're home. They don't have the stresses of figuring out who's going to watch their kids, or the expense or anything like that. So they're excited. They're depressed. When those kids go back to school, they cry at the bus stop. They make all these posts about how depressed they are. Then when the kids get out of school, which is going to happen in a week or so, they have a big party at the bus stop. They shoot them with water guns when they get off the bus, and they have this big giant party down at the pool. It's like a celebration that their kids are home for the summer. Total opposite of how I grew up. Well, it was the exact opposite. So what's changed, folks? You should bond with your kids. Not that our parents didn't like us when we were kids in the 80s and the 70s, but I felt like our parents, they were more stressed. Maybe I'm in a much better neighborhood financially than where I grew up. I know I am. And maybe these people here don't have the burdens, the financial burdens and strains on them that my parents had and other parents in my neighborhood had. But they are joyful when the school year ends here, and they cry like little babies when their kids, they cry more about going back to school than their own kids do here. So I just don't get it when it comes to the parenting's totally changed. Again, the show's not about parenting, but since we mentioned kindergarten graduations, I figured I'd speak about that. Now, what about when people get divorced? I mentioned at the beginning when we were talking about proposals. The divorce rate, I don't know exact numbers. It's somewhere 50%, maybe higher. Now this is big business, and I used to get calls as a DJ. People are having divorce parties now. Now, I think divorce parties are beyond ridiculous. It shows shallowness and narcissism, in my opinion. Celebrating a divorce or uncoupling, it's a big trend now, folks. And divorce parties are big business for party planners and novelty companies and DJs. They even outdo pet birthday parties. Yeah, that's a big thing too, folks. Now, when my pet adoption anniversaries come, we post their picture. We might give them a special treat. We don't have parties for the dog. We don't sit them around a table and invite other dogs from the neighborhood in. We give them a special treat. Maybe we make them some ground turkey or give them a special food that they don't normally get, and we celebrate their adoption date or their birthday. But now divorce parties, people are obsessed with their pets. Divorce parties are actually outdoing pet birthday parties now. It's that big. I know, folks, there are sometimes reasons why one spouse must get away from another. There's, might be serious safety concerns. There's abuse. There's domestic violence. There's infidelity. There's a host of other reasons. I get it. But why not just move on with your life? Some see divorces as a reason to party. I came across an event planner a couple of years ago, folks, who claimed a woman spent $25,000 for a Freedom Fest, a big divorce party. The party paraphernalia for divorce divas and newly unchained bachelors is also ridiculous and expensive. The party crowd sees divorce as moving forward into things like co-parenting and co-business management. I've come across articles, folks, quoting parents of young children explaining that a divorce party was very important because kids were involved and it offered closure for them. All right, folks, yeah, okay. So the kid goes to a party and, a celebration of, say he goes to his mom's divorce party. So he goes to the party, and the next morning he just wakes up, it's a miracle he's cured, and he just says, I'm good now, no problem. We went to the party, I got closure, I'm good now. Rather than mourning the death of a relationship, these divorcees think it's better to party. So it's traumatic on the kid whether you have a fucking party or not, but you think by having a party it's going to give closure to the kid. It's not going to give closure to anybody. To me, a divorce party is someone's way of spitting in the face of the cheater or person they're divorcing or whatever and say, who needs you now? Who needs you anyway? One woman having such a revenge party burned her wedding dress on top of a grill. Foam targets with the cheater's picture are often used for target practice at parties. To me, it's just a fuck you to whoever you divorced. And again, why not just move on? I would just move on with my life. Now, again, people leave marriages for different reasons, and sometimes you have to. Domestic abuse is rampant. Cheating is rampant. There's all kinds of stuff. But why can't you just move on? Why do you have to have a big celebration of something like that? So I don't get it. What's even more disturbing now, folks, is that parents are throwing menstruation parties for their daughters when they get their first period. Yes, it's a growing trend across the United States. It's a bizarre party trend, but parents have taken a new approach to a major milestone. Period parties. Yep, you got that right, folks. The newest parenting trend is throwing festivities in celebration of young girls getting their first menstruation cycle. According to online reports, the parties are gaining popularity as more and more parents feel the moment should be celebrated as a rite of passage rather than a burden to be kept quiet. The parties reportedly include quite a unique set of party favors and treats. According to a recent article in the New York Post, moms and dads around the world are embracing a new approach to their daughters who receive their first period. It's so what exactly is a period party, folks? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds, complete with over-the-top favors. The parties, as described online, are held in celebration of a major milestone in a young girl's life and used as an educational opportunity. By taking a more upbeat and positive approach to the arrival of a girl's first period, parents are hoping they can foster a more knowledgeable and positive experience for their daughters. Period parties focus on educating young girls about menstruation and teaching them lessons they may not receive in sex education classes at school. It's intended to be an open space where girls can discuss their period, ask questions, and debunk any myths they may have heard from their friends. Now, isn't that a failure of our education system? That people don't want sex education taught in school. They fight it every step of the way, especially the religious people. But then they're going to throw a period party. I mean, come on, folks. Where do we draw the line with these celebrations? What are your opinion on I think it's great for the parents to sit down with their daughters, explain what's changing in their body, speak about these things. Again, I'm all for sex education in school, and not just putting a condom on a banana, in depth. But, you know, there are a lot of people that oppose it. So we don't get, but having a party for a period, I don't know how I do know how I feel about it. I think it's crazy, and I think it's a bit over the top. Now, I've never DJ'd a period party. I've DJ'd a lot of different events. Spoke to a lot of photographers, wedding planners, other vendors, and weddings were my big business. If I had to say, I probably did 500 weddings. And most of them, now, there was a big difference in doing a wedding here in the South compared to a wedding up in New York. It's simpler here in the South. I'm not saying some people aren't over the top in Atlanta Metro, but I found that the brides and the grooms here in the South wanted a simple thing. Most of them rented out a venue that was like a blank canvas where they could bring in their own caterer, their own food, their own decor, pretty much a blank slate, blank canvas, and make it the way they wanted. Where up in New York, there was these lavish venues where, I'm telling you folks, ice sculptures at the cocktail hour. The food at the cocktail hour was bigger and better than a lot of the weddings here, the reception food. Over the top, $50, $75, $100, $150,000 on weddings up north. Commonplace, easy. And with that comes all the over-the-top things. Now, all these flash mobs, and I can't tell you how many times, you know, my wife and I, we had a simple, beautiful ceremony, had about 80 people in attendance, had a good DJ, good food. Everybody had a good time. No bridal party. We didn't want to burden anybody with the responsibility of having to rent tuxes, buy dresses. No form. We were introduced into the venue by the DJ. We didn't have 90 people coming. You know how many times as a DJ, folks, I had a list of about 30 to 40 people to introduce before the bride and groom. It was like calling out a football team for the Super Bowl. You know, here defensive tackle, here's the quarterback, it was crazy. Getting all these names pairing, and of course, the people couldn't just come in. Let's welcome our groomsman Mike and bridesmaid Brittany. And of course, they couldn't just come in and wave. They had to come in. Everybody wanted a different song, so I couldn't just play one song as I'm announcing 30 people in. Everybody wanted a different song so they could come in and do the worm into the room and do a special Pulp Fiction dance or whatever the fuck. It was crazy trying to coordinate this with the bride and groom. Just for a simple introduction. So the introductions are over the top. Then all of a sudden they would come and tell me, you know, they wouldn't even tell me, like, you know how many planning meetings I had with brides and grooms to make sure I had every detail. It's so important as a vendor at a wedding, especially the DJ, where I'm controlling the entire flow of the event. The entire evening is up to me, how I control that flow and keeping everything on time. And then I would get thrown for a loop where I would be setting up, and a groomsman would come to me and he goes, "Oh, did the groom tell you about the choreographed dance we're going to do?" I go, "No, what are you talking about?" "Well, I hope you have this song because right after the cake or right after the bride or right after the dinner hour or whatever time they picked, I want you to mix Chris Brown with this, with that, with Turn Down for What, and we're going to do this elaborate choreographed dance." Why didn't you tell me about this 5 weeks ago? Now I had to figure out if I had all the music that they wanted, and then all of a sudden it would just turn into a wild, like, crazy feel, like, and then of course everybody with their phones out. I can't tell you how many people on the dance floor at these weddings were just filming things instead of just enjoying their friend's wedding. Everything is for social media, Facebook living from weddings. It's over the top, folks. So I got to see it all and the Sweet 16s. Don't get me started on Sweet 16s because again, in New York, over the top, and they even have a show, My Crazy Sweet 16, whatever the hell it's called, on MTV about these crazy sweet. But in New York, it was over the top. When I came to the South in 2011, I remember the first call I got for a Sweet 16, and I sat with the Sweet 16, the girl and her parents, and I said, okay, all right, what about your candle lighting ceremony? And they looked at me like I had 3 heads, and they go, what's that? I go, oh, I thought this was standard all over the country. They go, no, what is it? I go, well, the Sweet 16, the girl we're honoring, lights one candle at a time, and for each candle, it's a dedication to a person in her life, a grandparent, a parent, a friend, an uncle, an aunt, or somebody. They read a little blurb about that person. They light the candle. The person comes up as I play a special song or a snippet from a song. They light the candle. Then she goes on to the next one. This happens 16 times in a row. So the girl's eyes lit up. She goes, oh, my God. And the parents turned to her and said, don't get any ideas. So, they never really did that here. I mean, I'm sure some people here in the South transplant, or maybe other people do it here, but it was commonplace in New York. Every Sweet 16 I did had a big, elaborate candle lighting ceremony, but they didn't do that here. So I think a lot of these crazy celebrations, too, are regional, because a lot of the times different parts of the country do different things. But even kids' birthdays, you have neighbors, the kid's 3. It's not a milestone birthday. They got to have 100 people over bouncing on bouncy houses, screaming. Bring them to Chuck E. Cheese. What the hell you got to bother the whole neighborhood for? I don't know. I share a birthday with my brother. My brother and I have the same birthday. I'm 2 years older. We're born on the same day, 2 years apart. Our birthday came in the summer. We got a Carvel cake with both our names on it. Happy birthday. My aunt would stop by with an envelope with a couple of bucks in it. We might get a little gift here. And that was the birthday, folks. That was the birthday. There was no 100 kids coming over the house, parties. It's just every birthday now is like, it's not just the milestone birthdays anymore. Kids 1 and maybe 5 or 10, then 16, Sweet 16, 18, he's legal, 21, and then 30, then the 10-year ones. It's the kid's 3, he's 4, he's 5, he's 6. I understand acknowledging the kid's birthday, giving him a gift or her a gift, making it a special day, taking him out to eat, but fucking parties every year. I don't get it. I just don't get where people have the money to do this shit every single year for 3, 4, 5 kids. I don't know. And again, proms. I went to the prom. I went to a junior prom, senior prom. I went to another prom after I was out of high school for a girlfriend who was 2 years younger than me, for her prom. And I also went to a prom as a favor. A good friend of mine was working at it was like an investment firm. And one of the guys that worked there was an older guy. He had a daughter and her friend who didn't have dates to their prom. Now, we were like 22 at the time, and asked me and my friend if we would take their daughters as a favor because we were nice guys, and we went to another prom. So I went to 4 or 5 proms. And even in that 4 or 5 year span, from my prom and my girlfriend's prom to going to this prom for this guy that my friends worked with's daughter, in that 4 or 5 year span, proms really went crazy. We ended up pulling up at this prom for my friend's co-worker's daughter and her friend. There was a red carpet. They were taking like paparazzi. They had like projectors on the school building. We didn't have that. We rented a limo, and my parents thought our prom in '89 was over the top because I got a limo and a corsage and a tux, and a girl got a dress, and we went out afterwards, and we spent the weekend, going to a comedy club, going to an amusement park. My mom thought that was over the top. You should see it now, folks. I don't even want now these proposals and all this. I'm glad I grew up when I did. So, where do you stand on all these celebrations? Do you think these celebrations are warranted, especially gender reveals, preschool and kindergarten graduations, divorce parties, period parties, these choreographed flash mob dances at weddings, over-the-top Sweet 16s, giant birthday parties for non-milestone birthdays for kids, proms? Where do you stand on all of these celebrations? We want to know, as always. We want your feedback on our Facebook page. Go to A Bunch of Malarkey. Type it in the search bar if you don't follow us already. Hit the like button, and there you'll get all of our new episode links. You will get our poll for Mutant of the Week, which goes up on Tuesday and ends on Saturday. And this week we have the domestic diesel debater versus the butt-dialing burglars. If you listen to us on any of the platforms, which are iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, CastBox, YouTube, and Stitcher, or you can just say, Alexa, play the podcast A Bunch of Malarkey to your Amazon Echo device, and she will play the most recent episode. And if you go to any of those platforms, make sure you subscribe and write us a review. I know many of you have on CastBox and Apple Podcasts and all over the place. So we really appreciate that. That helps us in the standings. Now, here's what's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. Next week will be a regular show. The week after, I don't want to give too much away because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I've been in talks, and I'm going to have an interview with a Grammy Award-nominated recording artist from the 80s. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet because I want to make sure it happens. We have worked out a time frame, so next week will be a regular show. The week after, we will try to have this person on, again, who is a Grammy-nominated recording artist from the 1980s. Again, I don't want to give anything away, mention any names until it's recorded and ready to go, but that's our plan for the following week. Then we will have another regular show, which is the week of Memorial weekend. And then we will have one more show, June 3rd, Monday, June 3rd. And that's going to be an idea that a few listeners sent in where they wanted someone to interview me. They want to know more about their host that they listen to every week that you take into your homes and your cars and your places of work. So I will have someone who's going to be great. She's awesome. She's going to be interviewing me the weekend of June 1st and 2nd, which will air on June 3rd. Then I'm taking a 2-week break, folks. I'm going up to New York, and we're going to take a 2-week break from the show, kind of like a summer break. And then I'll be back mid to late June. So it's going to be a 2-week summer break, and then we're going to come back towards middle, end of June. So I'm going to be heading out a little bit. And I know you guys have a lot going on with kids getting out of school and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you a 2-week break, and then we're basically going to have a straight run right to the holidays. I don't think we'll be taking another break until probably Christmas time. So split the year in half. 6 months in, June, we'll take a little 2-week hiatus, middle of June, and then we'll be back to ride you through the rest of the year. So really, folks, I know I say it every week, but it comes from the heart. I thank you so much to look at those stats every week and see it go up by 100 or 200 or 300 listeners every single week, and especially the core of you that vote and interact on social media and comment. I can't thank you guys enough. This is like my therapy session every week, folks. I come up here to the studio, and hopefully it gives you some type of relaxation and enjoyment every week too. It must, because you keep coming back. But I hope that I do for you guys what you do for me every week. It's very therapeutic. Who needs to spend hundreds on a therapist, folks? I just come up here and I vent everything to you. Neighbors walking around barefoot, screaming in foreign language. I come up here, I vent it all out to you guys. You guys eat it all up. You enjoy it. You keep growing with the audience. And again, hopefully I'm doing the same for you that you do for me every week. And I can't thank you enough for everything. So we got some fun stuff coming up. A Grammy Award nominated recording artist, hopefully in 2 weeks. And then a good interview a couple weeks after that. I'm going to be the subject of the interview. I'm sure I'm not going to know any of the questions. It's going to be a hard-hitting interview, so I'm kind of afraid. But you'll get to know me better. You already know all my quirkiness and my craziness, but maybe you'll get to know me a little bit better. And that'll send me off for a couple of weeks in June for a couple of weeks vacation, and then we'll be back and we'll take you straight through to Christmas. Can you believe we're already halfway through the year? We're halfway to Christmas, folks. Well, I'm sorry, we're not. We will be halfway to Christmas once the interview is done and I take my vacation. So the year is going by quickly, folks. Hopefully you are making the most of it. So again, vote for the Mutant of the Week. 2 big hitters this week: domestic diesel debater, butt dialing burglars. Tuesday, it goes up, the poll, ends on Saturday. And make sure you interact on the page. Tell us what your opinion is about our topic this week. Over-the-top celebrations, or should we mind our own fucking business? Do you participate in these crazy celebrations? We want to hear about it, and that's what the show is all about, having you guys participate. And if you have an idea for a show, folks, we've already done one idea. We're going to do another idea, the interview of me in a couple of weeks, in a few weeks. A bunch of malarkey podshow@gmail.com. Just send me an email or message me on the Bunch of Malarkey Facebook page. Tell me an idea for a show. I respond to everybody. I don't ignore anyone. So if you have an idea for a show, if you're local, you're a loyal listener that's in the Atlanta metro area, you want to come up to the studio and have an idea for a topic, let's shoot the breeze. You can be on the show. Or if you're not from this part of the country and you want to get on by phone, we can do that too. So we're always open to new ideas and new people on the show. And again, I thank you all very much for your continued support. So, folks, whether you're at a birthday party, kindergarten graduation, whether you're celebrating Cinco de Mayo, at a divorce party, a period party, because I know you want to go to that, you still have to beware, because it's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been A Bunch of Malarkey. Have a great week, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.